if you come to the podium.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really interesting question. I think ultimately all political spaces involve philosophical questions, right? We're making assumptions about, anytime we're making a political argument, they're built upon assumptions that are ultimately philosophical. They're assumptions about, what kind of things are humans, what kinds of things is the non-human world, what's the appropriate relationship between those two. So I don't see a lot of space between them. I think one of the things that we often fail to do is acknowledge that and reflect upon the philosophical assumptions that underpin our legal structures, which is one of the things that I think is interesting in this case, is that we are being asked to reflect upon those assumptions that are being made and that are underpinning this practice, and to reject those.
And building off of that, I guess just as you are trying to push this bill forward and other similar bills, do you find that it's more effective to use those philosophical, like this is a wrong thing to do arguments, or the scientific arguments which say this is not only wrong but probably also ineffective?
You're actually asking a social science question, and I don't know if I really know the answer. I mean, I think there's social science work that's been done that does suggest that moral appeals are actually pretty powerful, and they stick with people. Other appeals are powerful as well, but it's, I think in this case, the arguments in favor of things they have both scientific and philosophical premises. And so I think we would be silly not to try to understand and critique both of those kinds of premises.
And anyone's willing to, or welcome to answer these. I guess the point I'm trying to get to is that Oregon has a long history of and of hunting and having pride in hunting. And I'm just curious. A lot of the lawmakers are from rural Oregon that you're trying to that would have to support something like this. So if it's, what tactic would you think be most effective going forward? Is it the science, or is it the morality, or is it both?
I can speak not as a legislator, but as a jury trial guy, and I'll tell you, everybody's got the things that are going to be most appealing to them, and so I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all answer to your question. I think some people will be compelled by science, some will be compelled by the moral aspect of it, some will be compelled by a combination, some won't be compelled at all. And the ones that can't be compelled at all, you're not going to convince them no matter what you say. But I think everybody needs to find the message that resonates with them, and that's what will carry the day.
Can I just say something to your question?
Kathleen, up here.
Just as a side note, these contests are often linked with illegal gambling schemes. I don't know Oregon's gambling laws off the top of my head. I'd be happy to follow up with you via email, but that is the basis of the Animal Legal Defense Fund's civil suits against them. Most recently in Utah, we filed a civil nuisance case because they were using illegal gambling practices.
What is the illegal gambling that ties in with hunting?
Because it is a gambling event. If they put money into a purse and then the person who wins then receives the winnings. There's also a lot of times Calcutta betting with these events where spectators can bet on which participant they think will win. And in some states, again, I'm not familiar with Oregon's laws, but in some states that is illegal gambling.